Hello everybody, welcome to Knit56. This is episode 3 of my knitting podcast. Welcome everyone, my name is Shawn Glidden and today I will be talking about my knitting. I have one finished project, many unfinished projects, and a little bit of sock knitting to talk about with a historical perspective. So let's get started. This item that I'm going to show you, I have entered in the Canada Cal, and I finished it. I bound it off last night, and there's the pattern, which I absolutely love. I'm very happy. This is about, I don't know, 60 inches around. It's an infinity scarf. But the problem is, I don't like the binding, the edging. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. This is kind of a seed stitch. I think I'm going to take it off on both edges, and I don't know. I might try 1-1 rib. I might try an I-cord. I'm not exactly sure. But I also don't want to lose 2 inches. This is, I think, about 7.5, 8 inches across. So it's a work in progress still, even though it's off the needles at the moment. And I'm knitting this out of a Polworth yarn that I got from Rovings in Canada. And I love it. It's really soft and drapey. This would be a good item for a man. This long scarf. Oh, it's so pretty with these little 1-1 cables. So it's done, but not really done. And as you can see, my Shackleton winter white jacket project is still hanging on my loom. I haven't touched it in 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since I podcasted. Haven't touched it. So, but I've been working on some other things. Of course, I started new projects. So, but first I'll talk about an old one that's been on the needles for a while, and I've actually knit about, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches, and this is my brioche infinity scarf. It's very long, and this side is going to be really nice light tones. This will be white. I'm almost done with the white. I'm going to go into a nice gray, and this side, I think I have some brown. This is knit out of Knit56 palette. I had a bunch of these skeins and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't have quite enough for a sweater, so I thought I'd make a brioche cowl, which that's coming along really well. The other thing I've gotten a lot of work done is my factor of 4 shawl, and it's right here. Excuse me a moment. This is being knit out of 100% merino from Cervinia merino from Italy, and let's see, that's the wrong side. So last time, 3 weeks ago, I was down where that little yellow marker is, and I'm up to the last part of the pattern, and I really like it. It's a knit 3 purl 1 kind of rib. Oh, see, look at how much it changes depending on the angle that you're looking at it from. I just love that. And this blue is coming up pretty accurate right now in the light. Yeah. So this is my factor of 4. I'm knitting this on size 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter. It's a triangular shawl that I started at the neck, in the middle, back, and I'm increased on the edges and the center. Traditional triangular, oops, sorry, keep dropping it. Shaped shawl. Oh, look at the sun went behind a cloud. Totally changed the color in here. And it's got 2, 3 little patterns. I've showed this before. I'm getting somewhere though. It's getting pretty long. Down to the bottom. I'm on the last part of the pattern. So I'm calling this factor of 4. This is the 3rd one I've done. The first 2 were on different lace weights of yarn. The first one I did was on a lace weight in 2 colors, and every time I changed the pattern I changed colors, which was pretty nice. I like the way that turned up. But because of the lace weight, it's much more open and not as textured. And the second one I did was in Harrisville Wool Silk Blend. And that one too is very much, it's a heathered kind of yarn in a way. And the pattern doesn't show up quite as much. This is I'd say a fingering weight, probably. And it's a very round, squishy yarn, and I love how it's showing up the pattern. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so I'm working on that. I'm a little flushed, sorry. I'm a little sweaty too, because I had everything set up outside. It's a beautiful day out. And I had all my projects arranged. I had my camera just right so you could see the grape arbor. And then I realized how loud it is. So I live in the middle of the city in St. Paul, in a neighborhood in St. Paul, and I started listening. I started talking, and I realized, oh, there's a dog barking over there. Oh, listen to that loud car. Oh, the birds are really loud. Oh, and the wind's blowing, and now there's an airplane. I think I started 5 or 6 times, and I just decided, okay, I'm going in the house. You just get my loom and me and my projects. No nice blue clouds, even though it's a lovely day. It's so beautiful. On to more knitting. Here we go. Oh yes. Okay, in my first episode I showed you a skein of yarn that a friend had spun for me. And he didn't know what it was. It was yarn that was supplied by the class, for spinning. And it's a worsted weight. He figured it was about 240 yards. And I ended up making this cowl, knitting this cowl. And it's just a little zigzag pattern. And it's pretty thick. The yarn did soften up when I put it in water. I'll put it on here, even though it's, sorry. So this will be so great for just walking the dog. I can put this on. Speaking of dog, I probably could hear that one. There we go. Just little, I don't know, 7 by 22 inches around. Nice little cowl. It's going to be so nice and toasty warm. One of the troubles I have with cowls in the winter is that if it comes up over my face, which sometimes you like it to do when it's really cold, it steams up my glasses. I can't breathe. It's because it steams up my glasses. This one will be perfect. And I actually, sorry. I actually have a pattern for this on my Ravelry site. You can find me at Lulu Gals, or go to my project page, Sean Glidden. For Sean Glidden at Lulu Gals. Sorry. So I posted this pattern on line on my Ravelry page, Acme Knits Originals. So you can find it there, or find it on my project page at Lulu Gal on Ravelry. All the places you can find me on social media are at the beginning, and then again at the end of the podcast listed. You don't need to hear me say that over and over again every week. What's next? Okay, another project I've started. It's crazy. Let me get my notes. This is the Miss Grace shawl pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I'm knitting this out of Peace Fleece. I know Sarah from Fiber Trek has talked about this yarn a lot. And I ordered a whole bunch of it a while back. And I knit a vest for my father-in-law. And I had a bunch of colors left. Oh, look at that. And that's coming out pretty true. That is about what these colors look like now that the sun's behind a cloud. The colors are very true. So this is created with short rows. And these are the colors I'm using. I have another green that's a little bit paler than I'm going to use for the border. So you start at one end, that end. You increase on one side. I hope this will block out a little bit smoother. I'm thinking it will. And it's all garter stitch. And this is really a lot of fun. It's kind of a lot of counting. I can't work on it for too long. So once again, that's called the Miss Grace shawl, designed by Scano LLC. and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I have a group page on Ravelry. It's called Knit56 Podcast. Please come and join and introduce yourself. I'd love to know if anyone's listening, who's listening. Yeah, I'm just sharing my knitting and hoping you are enjoying it. Anyway, all my podcast notes you can find on my Ravelry page at Knit56 or my web page, acmeknits.com. There's a tab for Knit56 podcast. You can go there and find project notes from this podcast and previous ones. Another project I'm working on is called the Napa Grape pattern. Oops, and I've got this one's partly on the needles. Where did my magazine go? This is from a magazine, Knitters issue K100, fall 2010. And I'm knitting this on Debbie Soho Bliss. And I have 4 different colors. This is a picture of the project. It's a rectangular shaped shawl with armholes. So that's the project. It's called Napa Grape. And I am just knitting each skein of yarn until it runs out and then switching colors and keeping that pattern going. Let's see if I can get this organized. So this is one end, and go through each skein. There's the armhole, and I'm doing this. It's coming up a little brighter than they actually are, the blues especially, and the pink. But this will be a nice. It's kind of a bulky yarn. I'm knitting this on size 11 needle, and it's going really fast. I'm just using up my skeins of Debbie Bliss. It's fun. So once again, that's from the Knitters magazine, fall 2010. If you're interested in looking that up. I never get these on my Ravelry page. I so rarely get a project up. I'd rather be knitting than looking in front of the computer, really. Okay. Now, I've been really inspired by Andre Sue Knits podcast, and she makes, she dyes patterns on sock blanks. And then you can unravel the sock blank and knit it, and the color will change. But she does such a great job. She's so artistic, and the colors are so vibrant and fun patterns. So what it reminded me of was about 10 years ago, I took a surface design class here at the University of Minnesota. And we had to bring a bunch of blanks, let's say, to the class, already knit up. And we were going to use different techniques to dye them. And one of the projects was black cotton or linen, a natural fiber, not wool. I forget what they're called, a plant fiber. And so I knit 3 black squares. They were about 13 by 15 inches, I think. And then we used bleach and a paintbrush, and we bleached the design onto these black squares. And what happened was the bleach didn't harm the fabric, but it took the dye right out. So right here I'll insert a picture of the 3 blocks. And so I unraveled them, and where is it? And this is what I'm knitting. I wanted to try this shawl pattern. So I purchased these books online. Where's my notes? Excuse me, I'm always looking at my notes here. They're ebooks called Shawl Geometry 1 and Shawl Geometry 2 by Holly Chase. And they're really great. They have lots of different shapes of shawls and kind of a generic pattern for those. And I wanted to see how this one knit up. It's six uneven sections. So it's kind of a circular shawl. And I'm doing it in garter stitch. This is, what size needles are these? Doesn't say. I think there's 6 or 7s. So you start at the neck edge. I cast on a little more than was called for, but And here's how they're knitting up. And of course I couldn't just do garter stitch, I had to add, you can't really tell because of the light in the background, but I added some just some lace holes, some yarn overs, and knit 2 togethers. Just couldn't have, I was getting so tired of garter stitch. So this is, yeah, what am I doing on the edges that's different? Oh, that's part of the increase, yeah, so it kind of turns the corner there. So that's the neck edge. And I have, I don't know, about maybe 8 inches. And about this much yarn left. It's cotton. It's really fun. It's working up really fast. Let's see if I have the weight of how much this is. This is about 6 ounces of cotton. That's what I have left, probably about half. So that's been really fun. You know, a girl just can't work on only one project. Okay, now for the really fun thing I'm looking forward to. Is that everything? Well, Shackleton still to be worked on. I think every week I think I'm going to dedicate a bunch of time to it, and I just can't get to it. Okay, well, so on to the next thing. I found an article. I was going through magazines, and this is a Piecework magazine from 2009. And I found an article in there about knitting socks 2 at a time. However, they're knit one inside of the other. And so I'm going to try this. Let's see if I can show you a picture here, kind of in progress. You can see that one sock is inside of the other. So what you do is you knit, one is purled and the other one is knit, and you alternate the stitches. And so these are one sock and these are another sock. So these, well, I'm doing it backwards. Pretend they're facing you. This is facing you. So these are the purl stitches. The ones in the back are the knit stitches. And you carry your yarn one in each hand, and you don't tangle them, or you end up having socks that are just lined instead of 2 separate pieces. But I thought I would read you a little bit about this. So there's a woman named Mrs. A. Reeder, and in 1918, in the Needlecraft magazine, she published an article about knitting 2 socks at a time, and she thought it was revolutionary. Here's another picture of a white sock inside a dark colored sock. Here, this is from the end of the article. The article was written by designer Jacqueline Fee. She's the author of The Sweater Workshop, Knit Creative Seam-Free Sweaters on Your Own with Any Yarn. That was published in 2002. And she provided this article to Piecework magazine. So while the instructions for our socks are from 1918 publication, the technique certainly was known well before then. The Russian author Leo Tolstoy wrote about it in his epic novel War and Peace, originally published in the 1860s. So that's, 50, 60 years earlier. It says, "Come, Anna," this is taken from War and Peace. "Come, Anna Makarovna," Pierre's voice was heard saying, "come here into the middle of the room, and at the word of command, 1, 2, and when I say 3, you stand here, and you in my arms. Well now, 1, 2, said Pierre, and a silence followed. 3, and a rapturously breathless cry of children's voices filled the room. 2, 2, they shouted. This meant 2 stockings, which by a secret process known only to herself, Anna Makarovna used to knit at the same time on the same needles, and which, when they were ready, she always triumphantly drew one out of the other in the children's presence." So that's was written in the 1860s. I mean, if Tolstoy knew about this way of knitting, it must not have been that uncommon. There's a little bit more from Jacqueline. But there's more. In 1874, Frederick Pohl, Louisa Keisker, and Sally Pohl from Port Gibson, Mississippi, applied for a patent for Improvement in the Art of Knitting Stockings and Other Articles. U.S. Patent Number 167,563 was issued on September 7th, 1875. The application stated, quote, have invented a new and valuable improvement in the art of knitting several articles at one time upon the same set of needles, unquote. As with so much of knitting's history, we will probably never know the precise origin of this technique. To the enterprising knitter or knitters, most likely not Tolstoy, who devised it, thank you. So I'm working on some gems. I think it's a gems base. I don't know. I had these in my stash. A maroon. It's more burgundy than that bright red. And a nice brown, chocolate brown. That looks kind of purpley there, but these are the colors I'm using. I'm going to do cuffs, toes, and heels in the maroon, the sock in the brown on size 1. And obviously these were knit before. They were both partially knit hats. Imagine projects I didn't finish because I have so many going. So I've started these on ones. I'm following the directions for, it's a basic sock that's in the Piecework magazine. However, it's 64 stitches. But these look kind of small. So I'm going to switch to size 2s. I'm just going to keep knitting these. It's a 2-2 rib, knitting separate. These are on size 1s, which are too tiny for me, driving me crazy. So once I get the cuffs done, and it recommends 4 inches because they're folded over, they stretch out pretty big. I can get my hand in there pretty easily. So once I get the cuffs done, I am going to do 4 inches. What the heck? I have plenty of yarn. Then I'm going to switch to 2s, and what you do is you pick them up alternating. 1 stitch from one sock, 1 stitch from the other. And I've got my brown, piece of basket there, my brown in 2 skeins already, 1 sock, the other sock. So I'm really excited. I'll let you know how that goes. The ribbing is taking some time because it's so small. So once again, this is a quick little episode full of my knitting projects. Please come and join my Knit56 podcast group on Ravelry. Introduce yourself in the introductions thread. I'd love to know who you are and get to know you a little bit. I work during the week on my knitting, and I think, oh, I'm going to say this on my podcast, and I'm going to say that, and I'm going to add this. And then I get to the podcast, and I just run through all my projects, and I forget all the little chatty tidbits I was going to share with you. Anyway, I think that's it for now. I'm going to upload this and see if I can get it into YouTube today. Have a great day. I hope the weather where you are is as fabulous as it is here. Happy knitting, everybody.